details of what's going on.
Yeah, I wish there could have been a follow-up question to Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, who said the stock market is always right. Stock market has gone absolutely sideways since January of 2018. It's been 20 months where we've only made nominal new highs with no meaningful breakout. I'd like to know what he thinks that means relative to a 400-point pop in the Dow today.
All right. Will Ryan, thank you very much of Granite Shares. Ron and Son, always great to see you.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll continue to monitor this rally as we await President Trump's meeting with China's vice premier, plus the latest on GM as the United Auto Workers strike enters the 26th day. The key players back at the main table. Could that mean a deal is getting close? Power Lunch will be right back.
This CNBC program.
The 1304 LNER train, Coach C. Taking aunties with cold hands to nephews with warm cheeks in Edinburgh. Remorseful revellers back to their beds in Leeds. Business mums gliding over the Forth Bridge towards a door in Toddlers in Newcastle. And a band heading to London to our group of strangers in a tiny pub. This is us. These are our journeys. This is our LNER.
Head to TradePoint to see the new kitchen ranges. The quality's gone up, while delivery times have gone down, with up to 6 ranges stocked in-store too. And the low prices, well, they're still low. Plus, they're even easier to install. For all you need, when you need it. Get to TradePoint or go to tradepoint.co.uk.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want dramas, I've got all the big shows from Sky Atlantic. Football, how about the Premier League? Or how about thrillers? They're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
With the general election just over a year away, the top 12 presidential hopefuls reconvene Tuesday in Ohio for the 4th Democratic debate. While this edition features the most crowded stage yet, the field is set to shrink next month, making this many candidates' last chance to get heard.
You gotta defend the fact that today...
Houston, we have a problem.
Wherever you are when the debate starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can listen to CNN's exclusive live coverage on TuneIn. Just search CNN to listen.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. We are looking at a live shot of the White House where the president will meet with China's vice premier within the next hour. Markets are rallying on reports that a partial deal has been reached. Right now, we've got the Dow higher by 424 points, 1.6% gain. S&P 500 adding 47, and the Nasdaq is up by 148, or almost 2%.
Meantime, we're entering the 26th day now of the GM strike, with negotiations revving up. GM is sweetening its offer to United Auto Workers by planning to preserve health care without increasing out-of-pocket costs. The auto giant is also committing a $7.7 billion investment in its U.S. factories in an attempt to end the strike. And GM shares hitting a speed bump since the strike began last month. They are down substantially since then. Will this latest offer spark a turnaround? Joining us now is Michael Ward. He's managing director at Seaport Global Securities. Michael, it's great to have you here. You have some great thoughts on this, including that this spat could weigh on the auto sector for years to come.
Absolutely. The strike is an unfortunate waste of time and money. And, I've been following the auto sector as a sell-side analyst for almost 40 years. And it has become increasingly difficult to get investors' attention with the stocks, especially General Motors and Ford. We got a good break coming out of the downturn, reduced cost structures, but this is a major step backwards.
In other words, you think we're going to lose the next generation of investors in companies like General Motors and Ford, if they're not already gone because they're in the Teslas and, Ubers of the world?
Well, I don't think Tesla and Uber are necessarily threats to General Motors or Ford, But the question is what's going to get a portfolio manager to buy General Motors or Ford if you have risks increasing, like labor risk? I think many people thought labor risk had kind of been subdued since the downturn. Now it's back on the table that labor could be a real risk for this group as you go forward.
It's still only been, I say only 26 days. If this is resolved shortly, then perhaps it could quickly become a distant memory, right?
Absolutely. I think you need to get it resolved. Both sides. To me, it's just a breakdown in communication. And in 2017, when the union rep went off the GM board because of being investigated for some of these issues, I think communication broke down at General Motors, between General Motors and the union, and I think that needs to get resolved. That being said, if they get this thing resolved over the next day or two and they start up production a week from now, you will be in a position to build inventory and you'll see finances recover and cash recover.
At the same time, there are some other analysts out there, Michael, who believe that what has gone on with the strike will impact GM's ability to meet its cost savings targets through 2020, will actually cost the automaker possibly up to $1.5 billion. What are your estimates? Because, distant memory, great, but if the distant memory hits 2020 projections, then maybe it's not so distant.
Well, I think if you look at it, U.S. labor costs are about $5 billion at General Motors. So if you go up 5% a year for the next 3 to 4 years, you're talking about $500 million, $700 million of additional cost. That doesn't really completely disrupt their profit projections. So I would say that's a little bit too aggressive.
What about the auto suppliers? How are they being affected both economically and in the market by this?
I think it's had a bigger impact on the suppliers than it has General Motors, quite frankly. I think you're seeing the suppliers, they're getting strangled because, they're smaller and they depend on GM on a lot of these products that are being shut down. And so I think the near-term impact on the suppliers is probably hitting them a little bit harder. Every supplier, I cover 8 suppliers, each of the 8 have significant impact on third quarter, and that impact has accelerated in October when some of the operations in Canada and Mexico have gone down.
We're looking at a lot of those stocks right now, some of which I know you do cover, and they are all up, some of them markedly today, in admittedly an up market. Is it just the rising boat lifting all tides, or what? Or is it?
I think it's China.
You think it's China?
China.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not that they are anticipating a solution, a resolution of the strike.
I don't think so. Normally the suppliers, when there is a strike impact, the market kind of looks beside it, and they'll look through it. And particularly, just take a stock like Lear. Lear is a big supplier to General Motors. They're also a supplier to the Ford Explorer, which is having production issues. I think as you go through the quarter, and let's just say Lear has an impact of 70 cents from the GM strike, as you go out over the next 2 to 3 months, GM's going to need to rebuild inventory, and they'll be accelerating production of some of those key models for Lear.
You still have a buy on GM?
I do have a buy on GM, and certainly you have to think about how this strike is settled and what the cost implications are and everything else, and the implications for General Motors and their perception, more importantly, as you go out over the next 5 to 10 years and that relationship with the UAW.
Okay, Michael, thanks so much today. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you again. After the break, as markets rally on renewed hopes for a trade deal, industrial stocks are soaring today, and our traders are going to dig into the sector next. Plus, the rise and fall of the unicorn. What WeWork's downfall could mean for the IPO market. That and more when Power Lunch comes right back.
What do you look for when you trade?
I want free access to research.
Yep.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Football? How about the Premier League? Or how about dramas? OMG, I've got Chernobyl. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus month passes auto renew, terms apply.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Otto Sergey now checks for better energy deals so you don't have to. Meaning we can all sit back and relax. Can't we, Sergey? Sergey?
Hey? What?
Tell the people that we can sit back and relax.
Oh, we can sit back and relax.
Oh, don't waste energy worrying about energy. Automate it with Otto Sergey. Compare the market. Keep life simple.
Customer preferences determine alerts based on tariff type, payment type, supplier rating, and minimum annual saving of £50.
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs. Like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Today, we've got Game 1, Nationals, Cardinals. First pitch, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern.
Swinging up. Line drive into left center. That's going to score 2 more. And the Cardinals lead 9-0. It's a double by Wong. Let her rip, boys. Let her rip. The Cardinals lead 9-0 here in the first inning.
Yep, catch that game right here. Nationals, Cardinals, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Take a look at this. Members of China's trade delegation seen entering the White House just a few minutes ago. The Vice Premier, Liu He, who is the top official meeting with President Trump, not seen in this video, however, but markets are hanging on to pretty much near session highs right now. 1.9% gains there for the NASDAQ. Dow's up 442 points as that delegation arrives. Now to Trading Nation. Michael Santoli joins us for today's edition. Mike?
Kelly, thank you very much. Industrials among the top performers today on hopes U.S. officials can make some headway, as we've been talking about, with China on trade. Fastenal also leading the group after topping earnings estimates today. So how should you trade the sector right now? Let's bring in your Trading Nation team, Craig Johnson of Piper Jaffray and Chad Morganlander of Washington Crossing Advisors. Craig, been performing a bit better, kind of held up, I guess, the uptrend the industrial sector has. How does it seem ripe to perform from here, and what about any names within the group you like?
Mike, so we like the industrials. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we upgraded the industrials from a neutral to an overweight, and we continue to think there's more upside. When you look at the XLI, here's an index that suggests that perhaps a close above about 80 would suggest a move back toward 100. So we like that. If you go down further into this, you had just mentioned Fastenal. Well, if you take a look at Illinois Toolworks, ticker ITW, there's about a 0.75 correlation between Fastenal and Illinois Toolworks. And from our perspective, you got kind of a nice bottoming setup happening here with a symmetrical triangle in the Illinois Toolworks, and I could see a nice move out of that stock. We'd be a buyer of that and certainly the industrial sector.
Chad, been a lot of talk about the potential perhaps for a rotation toward more globally cyclical type sectors. Industrials would qualify there. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, our portfolio, we have roughly about a 23% weighting in industrials. We see that over the entire market that there's actual deep value disparity. So we would be buyers of industrials. You're looking at companies that even with a global slowdown, the valuation really does make sense. But look for companies that don't have a lot of debt on their balance sheet. That's the one thing that I would caution. So look at companies that are consistently growing, consistently profitable, with well-diversified product lines and well-diversified client bases. Overall, we think that this is a relative performance that will be well above the S&P 500.
All right, and a little bit of a cooling off of the dollar doesn't hurt this group either. Guys, thank you very much. For more Trading Nation, head to our website or follow us on Twitter at Trading Nation. Melissa, back over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Ahead on Power Lunch, we continue to monitor this rally. The Dow now up by 465 points. Plus, Iranian authorities claim one of their oil tankers was hit by 2 missiles. We will go live to Tehran. And money manager Ken Fisher coming under fire for comments made during a closed-door conference. We'll tell you everything you need to know. All this when Power Lunch returns.
And now, the latest from tradingnation.cnbc.com and a word from our sponsor.
Different sectors tend to do well during different periods of the economic cycle. When the economy is expanding, industrial and technology stocks have historically outperformed the broader market. However, when the economy is contracting, more defensive sectors, such as utilities and consumer staples, tend to outperform. I'm Lee Bohl, and Schwab is the better place for traders.
Carl, I appreciate the invite here. Ask my broker.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Movies, I've got blockbusters. Or how about dramas? I've got all the big shows from Sky Atlantic. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus month passes auto renew, terms apply.
The chance of being hurt while using a leaf blower is about 3,000 to 1. Ooh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs. Like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Get blown away with Apple AirPlay, Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa built in. And there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
If you can drive a van that's built in Britain, with class-leading fuel economy on every run, to Middlesex to do some masonry, or to Tunbridge carrying well over a ton, yours is the all-new Vauxhall Vivaro, and you'll be driving a great Brit van, my son. All-new Vauxhall Vivaro carries British business. To find out more, search New Vauxhall Vivaro.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Couldn't. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, visiting a school in Beaconsfield, says that there is still a ways to go to get a Brexit deal done, but he repeated Britain is ready to leave the EU without a deal on October 31st.
Leo Varadkar and I got to yesterday was a joint feeling that there is a way forward. We can see a pathway to a deal. That doesn't mean it's a done deal.
French carmaker Renault fired its CEO today to try and restart its alliance with Nissan. Thierry Bolloré was let go days after Nissan named a new CEO. Bolloré had replaced Carlos Ghosn after he was jailed. Ghosn had led both companies. And this is my favorite story of the day. Archaeologists in Italy have unearthed a well-preserved fresco depicting fighting gladiators in the ancient Roman city of Pompeii. The new discovery was unveiled today. It was found on a wall beneath the stairwell of what was probably a tavern frequented by gladiators. That is the news update this hour, guys. I'll send it back to you. Kelly?
It turns out we all love Pompeii, Sue.
Absolutely.
It's just, how can you ever get enough? It's fascinating.
They keep finding things there. They keep uncovering new treasures.
It's wonderful.
So long. Sue, thanks very much. Sue Herrera there for us. China's vice premier now arriving at the White House as well with the rest of the trade delegation we showed you a few moments ago. Liu He will be meeting with President Trump in about 15 minutes' time. Gives you a check of the markets going into that event. The Dow is still near session highs with gains of more than 400 points right now. Same for the S&P and NASDAQ. All the major averages within about 2% of their all-time trading highs today. Oil prices are also higher, but different story there. It's claims from Iran that one of its tankers was attacked by 2 missiles in the Red Sea. NBC's Ali Arouzi joins us now from Tehran with more. Ali?
That's right. Authorities here in Iran are saying that their oil tanker, the Sabeti, was hit in the early hours this morning, about 60 miles off the coast of Saudi Arabia. They say that 2 explosions damaged the hull of the ship, and even though they have dispatched a team of investigators, they are saying that this was an act of terrorism, and they suspect the damage was caused by missile strikes. Now, the Iranians are denying any serious damage. They say 2 storerooms on board the vessel were damaged, and that some oil had leaked out into the Red Sea, but that has been contained now, and they say all the crew members on board are safe. They're also refuting reports that the ship was ablaze. They were saying that that never happened and it was all contained very quickly. Now, state media released some images of the vessel, which we can't verify yet, but it doesn't appear to show any damage. With that said, the images are all aerial shots of the vessel and no shots of the hull were shown. A ship tracking site that I've been following is indicating that the tanker is now heading south under its own power, bound for Iran's southern Persian Gulf coast. Now, there have also been some diverging accounts from Tehran as to who may have been behind the attacks. Initially, they said Saudi Arabia, but now they've walked that back, saying that they have to investigate things further.
Ali, thank you. Ali Arouzi in Tehran for us. A Twitter video sparking attention over controversial comments investment guru Ken Fisher has made at recent conferences. Leslie Picker joins us with the details. Leslie.
Hey, Melissa. Notable investor Ken Fisher has come under fire over comments he made at a closed-door investing conference on Tuesday. The world found out about it after an attendee shot a selfie video calling Fisher's comments a true debacle and horrifying, and he then posted it on Twitter, where it has more than 100,000 views. CNBC has since obtained the audio from Fisher's conversation on stage. Here are 2 excerpts of his remarks from the event that members in the audience said offended them.
He did this interview with me, and they only ran the part that they asked me about the market. They didn't run into the part they asked me about other stuff, because I'm kind of like an open book, but most people don't want to read it. If you can't talk about Tennessee, you can't really deal with the customers. I don't know if you get that or not. Going up to a woman in the bar and saying, hey, I want to talk about what's in your pants.
One attendee told us she wasn't the only person there who felt uncomfortable by Fisher's comments.
I really felt like it unsettled the room, and there was definitely on my end a certain amount of shock. I was very surprised. I was particularly surprised when he spoke about the process of getting to know a client, that it being like getting into a girl's pants.
Fisher, in a statement to CNBC, said, quote, "Some of the words and phrases I used during a recent conference to make certain points were clearly wrong, and I shouldn't have made them. I realize this kind of language has no place in our company or industry. I sincerely apologize." Still, this is not the first time Fisher has made comments that some perceive as lewd at an event. Here's another clip obtained by CNBC from a conference in June of 2018. Where he again brought up sexual innuendo when referring to the financial services industry.
I mean, the most stupid thing you can do, which is what every mutual fund firm in the world always did, was to brag about performance in a direct mail piece, which is a little bit like walking into a bar when you're a single guy and you want to get laid and walking up to some girl and saying, hey, you want to have sex.
CNBC reached out to the conference organizer from 2018, IMN, which said, quote, "We found Mr. Fisher's unexpected comments entirely inappropriate and determined afterwards he would not participate in any of our events in the future." Tiburon Strategic Advisors, which planned Tuesday's event, released a statement from its managing partner without naming names. He said that he was, quote, extremely disappointed by the comments made by one participant, which furthers the inclusion problem in the wealth and investments industry. Tiburon also announcing that the unnamed participant would not ever be invited back to the event. Fisher oversees about $100 billion in assets, and many of his clients are not publicly disclosed. However, some pension funds do list Fisher Investments as an equity manager in their annual reports. The Iowa Public Employees Retirement System told CNBC that they hold their partners to the highest standards and reserve the right to amend or sever any contract. They did not specify whether they're severing ties with Fisher, though. The Public Employees Retirement System of Mississippi told CNBC that Fisher manages about $500 million, or about 2% of their portfolio. Executive Director Ray Higgins said they will certainly consider this matter, as well as the response statement that was issued by Fisher Investments, as they consider to monitor the service they provide and ultimately their performance. CNBC also reached out to other Fisher clients, including the Kansas City Public School Retirement System, Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, and Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, but have not yet heard back. It's worth noting, guys, that attendees at the Tiburon conference on Tuesday spent $25,000 on an annual membership, which included the event, and were told that the discussions there were confidential.
And had to break that confidentiality in order to make the comments public, which a number of them felt were bad enough that they should do so, I guess.
And one might wonder at conferences like these that are confidential, what has been said and how long it's gone on, that just really hasn't come to light because of the kind of the closed door nature of these events.
But these people are sophisticated individuals, and anytime you say anything in a crowd of the public, you'd better believe that those words are either being recorded or will be repeated.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age with social media the way it is.
You can't, whether it's marked confidential or not, things leak all the time.
Even at the conference itself, I think there was a sense that it was received very awkwardly. It's not as if it was, wow, this is what happens at these events. I think this one was quite different in the nature of the comments, even among people there at the time.
You got to choose your metaphors very carefully. I mean,
it's just stupid.
It's just silly.
Plain stupid to say things like that.
It's just silly
and offensive. But what caught my attention was the response that you got, I believe, from Kansas City when they were saying they would evaluate the statement that was issued by Fisher Investments, Mississippi, and the performance. The performance has nothing to do with whether or not you want this man's company to manage 2% of your portfolio, I would say.
That's what's so interesting. And as I was calling around to sources asking if they've heard of any response from investors who were in his funds, people said, look what happened with Steve Cohen. He was, under investigation for potential criminal activity at the time, and people still weren't redeeming because performance was really good. Wow. So it is interesting what the investment management industry has been able to get away with if performance is there. Whether that changes now, especially as these issues come to light, I think remains to be seen.
Leslie, thanks. Leslie Picker. 2019 was meant to be the year of the unicorn, but while some companies have soared, others have fallen. And after the break, we'll take a look at what WeWork's decline could mean for the whole IPO market. You are looking as well at a live shot of the White House, where the president is about to meet with China's Vice Premier Liu He. This is we're getting reports that a partial trade deal has been reached. That's what has the markets up this afternoon. We'll bring you any headlines as they cross. Back in two.
The Bond Report.
If you can drive a van that's built in Britain, with class-leading fuel economy on every run, to Middlesex to do some masonry, or to Tunbridge carrying well over a ton, yours is the all-new Vauxhall Vivaro, and you'll be driving a great Brit van, my son. All-new Vauxhall Vivaro carries British business. To find out more, search New Vauxhall Vivaro.
Watford, it's raining outside, and you're staying in with your feet up, and they can stay up. Because with Hive Active Heating, you can set the perfect temperature without even lifting a finger.
Alexa, ask Hive to boost my heating.
And by never having to heat an empty home, you could save up to £120 a year on your heating bill.
Alexa, play my Nice and Toasty playlist.
Search Hive Heating to buy now. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Movies, I've got blockbusters. Or how about crime dramas? I've got loads, and they're never going to guess who did it. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content, learn about hot new podcasts, and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
Throw it. He's got it on stiff arm. End zone. Touchdown.
You can listen to it all for free at home, on campus, or on the road. Hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
From the TuneIn studios on Fonseca with your daily sports update. Today, we've got Game 1, Nationals, Cardinals. First pitch, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern.
Swinging a line drive into left center. That's going to score 2 more. And the Cardinals lead 9-0. It's a double by Wong. Let her rip, boys. Let her rip. The Cardinals lead 9-0 here in the first inning.
Yep, catch that game right here. Nationals, Cardinals, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Welcome back, everybody. Into the bond market we go, and Rick Santelli at the CME. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Tyler. A lot going on, whether it's trade, as we're going to find out shortly. Maybe Brexit is their last-minute solution. But maybe the biggest thing is there's a lot less positive talk on negative rates. Look at a 1 week of 2s. They're up 19 basis points on the week. A 1 week of 10s, up 21 basis points on the week. 5s and 10s are both over 20. The rest of the curve's 18 to 19 basis points. Year-to-date of 10s minus 2s, you could clearly see that this rise in rates has been led by the long and clearly seen on the 10s minus 2 spread hovering around 15 basis points. Let's look at what's going on with regard to boons. They're up 15 basis points on the week. And when you consider how much smaller their yield is at minus 44, you can see how that is a big move. And finally, the jack-o'-lantern. Here's a late August chart of the dollar index. You see those jack-o'-lantern teeth right in the middle? They all represent levels right around 98.25, just slightly below where we're trading. That's an area to pay attention to. Kelly, back to you.
Okay, Rick, thanks very much. Rick Santelli. WeWork is seeking an emergency debt financing package from major banks following the company's failed IPO. Let's head over to Deirdre Bosa in San Francisco for the latest. Deirdre?
Kelly, WeWork could report run out of money as soon as November, and that's much sooner than analysts had expected. So its now botched IPO, remember, was supposed to deliver $3 billion in equity, $6 billion in debt contingent on a listing. So that's a $9 billion shortfall. Reports now say that the company is chasing a new debt financing package worth as much as $5 billion, led by JP Morgan. The bank declined to comment. Now, WeWork is also talking to SoftBank about a separate capital infusion. But over the last few weeks, WeWork's credit rating has been downgraded by S&P and Fitch. So new debt would come at a significantly higher cost company than its previous loans. And guys, put simply, even if WeWork avoids a cash crunch this year, there are still major questions about future funding and growth. Also questions over SoftBank's role in WeWork and other unicorn valuations that are looking pretty bloated today. Today, our own Alex Sherman writing that Masa-san is changing his strategy for Vision Fund 2, looking to target companies with clearer paths to profitability. Back to you.
All right, Deirdre, thank you. Deirdre Bosa. And yet another disappointment for SoftBank hitting the tape today. Shares of Veer are plunging. They are down by about 26% in the biotech firm's Wall Street debut. It's just the latest in a parade of venture-loved companies to receive a chilly reception from public investors. Was the IPO summer slump capped off with the WeWork fiasco the worst possible outcome for all the unicorn cheerleaders across Silicon Valley? Is the heyday of the venture-funded startup behind us? Let's bring in Hillary Gosher. She's a managing director at Insight Partners, a venture capital and private equity company with over $20 billion under management. Hillary, great to get your perspective today.
Thank you.
When you take a look at the crop of IPOs that have gone public, and just setting WeWork aside for just a moment since it didn't go public, but the ones that have gone public, that haven't done well in the public markets, is there something more than just the market sentiment turning against these sort of companies with no paths to profitability, or is there something that you look at in how long they stayed private and how much money they raised, the path to that IPO that you say, that was it?
I think that it's much more to do with the former, which is the fact that companies need a good business model. They need a path to profitability. They need a path towards good gross margins, good net margins. And if they don't have that, the market's going to speak. I think that, when you're a private company, you don't come under so much scrutiny. You've got a lot more time to determine your business model, a lot more time to think through, how do we make money? But once you're public, you're under scrutiny. And, at Insight Partners, when we look at what we invest in, we very much think that it behooves us as investors to think about and do good due diligence on the kind of companies that have great business models, that have good management and a good path to profitability.
I would think VC firms, I would think the likes of a Fidelity Growth Fund, I would think that they would all do pretty good due diligence when they're putting a bunch of money into some of these privately held companies ahead of the IPO, Hillary. And so I'm wondering, is it a pressure to deploy capital, that there's just so much capital out there sloshing around because of this era of low interest rates that people are chasing returns and so willing to sort of suspend disbelief when it comes to investing in some of these companies?
You raise a really good point. I think lots of these companies are looking to put money to work before the IPO with the hope that it'll pop upon IPO. And so some of these valuations that are pre-IPO, the mezzanine rounds, they've been done at these huge valuations because companies like Fidelity are looking to put money to work. I think that's a really good point. When you get to something like a direct listing, though, what you do really is take out that pop and you give the money back to the company. So we're starting to see that the markets are getting smart, and at least the companies are getting smart about the fact that there are alternatives paths to liquidity. One is to stay private, and there's lots of venture debts available for those companies that are good. And another is to think about going public with all the scrutiny that involves.
Hillary, I'm sure you've had hits and you've probably had some swings and misses. What do the hits have in common, and what have you learned from the misses? What do the misses have in common?
Great question. So the hits are very much have the same things in common. Whether it's a company that is a SaaS software company, and we mostly invest in software. And I think that's where alludes to your question, which is not all technology is created equal. Something like a software as a service business model that Insight invests in, there's a lot of predictability in the revenue streams. There's a lot of recurring revenue. You have a lot of forward 12 visibility as to what the company's going to perform at. Whereas some of the other technology companies that have less common business models, take Peloton, for example. They're both a media company, they're an apparel company, they're a hardware company. Much more difficult for investors to determine whether those companies and how they're going to make money long term and what the gross margins will be long term. So when we look at companies, I think as investors, we're looking very much for companies that have this kind of predictability in their revenue model.
Hillary, great to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to talk.
Hillary Gosher.
Just a little over an hour left in trading, and it may be a very eventful hour. After the break, we're going to head to the NYSE for the Traders' Take on today's rally. And one reason why it may be a very eventful hour is that it is all taking place as the president and China's Vice Premier He are now meeting at the White House. We've got reports of a partial deal. We'll bring you any headlines as soon as we see them. We will be back in 2 minutes.
How well does your financial advisor know you? The Peugeot professional van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot professional vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Watford, it's raining outside, and you're staying in with your feet up, and they can stay up. Because with Hive Active Heating, you can set the perfect temperature without even lifting a finger.
Alexa, ask Hive to boost my heating.
And by never having to heat an empty home, you could save up to £120 a year on your heating bill.
Alexa, play my Nice and Toasty playlist.
Search Hive Heating to buy now. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
This is the sound of the Ronson family on a Friday night, snuggled on the sofa, eating a Munches sharing pack. The Smiths enjoying fruit pastels. Mum and Katie eating Milky Bar buttons. Jen and Sal's Aero Bubbles. Billy and Claire scoffing Kit Kat bites. All these lucky people won a Sky Store movie worth $9.99 with their Nestle sharing packs. There are 50,000 to be won. See special packs for details.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
Single...
And gone!
Game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every major postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios on Fonseca with your daily sports update. Today, we've got Game 1, Nationals, Cardinals. First pitch, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern.
Swinging up. Line drive into left center. That's going to score two more. And the Cardinals lead 9-0. It's a double by Wong. Let her rip, boys. Let her rip. The Cardinals lead 9-0 here in the first inning.
Yep, catch that game right here. Nationals, Cardinals, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Stocks are close to session highs. Reports of a partial trade deal. The reason why. Matt Cheslock is following the action. He's with Virtue Financial. Matt, welcome. Good to have you with us. How vulnerable is this rally to anything that might happen in the next hour and 6 minutes?
Well, it's something we've never seen before. Is that what you're saying? There's a healthy amount of skepticism down here that anything that comes out of this trade deal will be formative enough to get a substantial rally. I think this is a bit of a relief that they're at least getting in the room together and having discussions. But we also got a perfect storm today. We got some consumer sentiment numbers here that were a bit stronger than we expected. That was the concern earlier in the week when we kept hearing the R word, recession. Was the consumer going to fall down? Certainly wasn't the case today. We got to maybe have a deal in place for Brexit. That's another positive sign. And of course, we got maybe QE3 in the works. So all of that put together leads to a big positive day before maybe a long weekend with banks closed on Monday.
Banks are closed on Monday. Let's talk about the earnings that will start trickling out next week as earnings season gets underway. What are you looking for there, and what will the telltales be?
Well, what's interesting is we're going to be led off by the banks as usual. And they're not, the forecasts aren't the greatest for the banks, but they have a tendency to beat or exceed pretty healthily. So if we can get some signs that the banks are on board and maybe that can turn the corner, that's been kind of a sector that we haven't seen a whole lot of gains in. We've been focused on technology for so long as the main driver of this market. So those are the things that I'd be probably looking at, some of the sectors that maybe have been a little bit more unloved over the last quarter or two.
All right, Matt, always good to see you. Good to see you again, sir. Matt Cheslock.
All right, Tyler.
Appreciate it. More Power Lunch after this. Kelly, Melissa, jump ball, ladies and gentlemen.
Catch the Market Zone today and
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and be unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want crime dramas, I've got loads, and they're never going to guess who did it. Reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Or how about movies? I've got blockbusters. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto-renew, terms apply.
If you can drive a van that's built in Britain, with class-leading fuel economy on every run, to Middlesex to do some masonry, or to Tunbridge carrying well over a ton, yours is the all-new Vauxhall Vivaro, and you'll be driving a great Brit van, my son. All-new Vauxhall Vivaro carries British business. To find out more, search New Vauxhall Vivaro.
The chance of being hurt while using a leaf blower is about 3,000 to 1. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Get blown away with Apple AirPlay, Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa built in. And there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Welcome back to Power Lunch, and we are holding on to some pretty big gains in the markets here as we await President Trump meeting with Vice Premier Liu He at the White House. We've got the Dow higher right now by more than 400 points. This is a gain of 1.8% at this point. S&P 500 higher by 1.7%.
You wonder, I asked Matt Cheslock a moment ago, how vulnerable this rally might be if, and I think we're pretty far down the track here. It looks like something is going to get announced before the weekend really begins here. But if it leaves the market feeling a little underserved, how vulnerable are we maybe later today or next week to a sell-off?
And how much
follow-through? They're talking about a partial deal that would include something, some concessions from China on currency, on intellectual property, and they're going to buy more soybeans, and we may postpone some tariffs.
Yeah, but you know what? I like Fastenal today. The 16% gain goes to what Lawrence Golub told us yesterday. Those parts of the U.S. economy that are, and this is a manufacturing-sensitive name, beating on EPS, putting up 18% two-year kind of sales comps. I mean, there is underlying strength here. It shouldn't be over.
And they had a tough quarter in the second quarter, so that's worth noting. The safety sectors, though, still bid higher or flat. Utilities and staples, so watch that into the close. And thank you for watching Power Lunch.
You all have a great weekend. And you all at home as well. We'll see you next week. Have a good Columbus Day.
Welcome to the closing bell. I'm Courtney Reagan, and today for Sarah Eisen.
And I'm Wilfred Frost. We've got breaking news. President Trump meeting right now with Chinese Vice Premier Liu He. We are awaiting any possible signals on the announcement of a trade deal. Let's have a look at stocks, which of course are rallying sharply today on hopes that there is a trade deal in the works. The S&P 500 is up 1.7%. The Dow, as you can see, up 1.8%, 475 points. The high of the session, almost 500 points, 499.74. We've been at or near those levels for most of the afternoon. Let's get an update from Eamon Javers. He's at the White House and has all the latest developments for us. Eamon.
Yeah, Wilfred, reporters are staged just outside the Oval Office on the colonnade now, ready to go into the Oval whenever the president invites them in for his discussion with Liu He of China. Obviously, a much anticipated moment here at the White House. Do they have a deal? Do they not have a deal? Do they have something in between that might be an interim step along the way to a deal. We don't know as we stand here right now. A lot of rumors swirling around Washington and Wall Street, but for right now, we can tell you that the Chinese delegation is here. They're in the Oval Office now, and we do expect to see the president at some point. We just don't know exactly what they're going to say. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin came to the White House press briefing room a short time ago. I asked him to give us an update on the talks and whether or not it's possible that we get to the end of the day today without an announcement of any new developments at all. Mnuchin declined to answer that question. He simply said that the talks so far have been productive, and at that time of the day, he said they were going in to brief the president, but no specific indication from Mnuchin that anything at all had been agreed to. Obviously, with the president in the room, he's the decider. He's the person who can set up that agreement or knock it down, and we'll see what happens.
And Eamon, what exactly have we heard from the president today? I know most of his tweets on this topic were earlier in the day, but the word deal has appeared in some of those tweets.
Yeah, that's right. The president's framing on that has been a little bit elusive. So what we've heard from the president so far is that the China deal is a good deal. He's referred to it as a specific noun, but he hasn't said it's been signed or agreed to, right? So the phraseology, there have been a lot of grammarians looking over the phraseology of the president's tweets today, trying to understand if he's talking about a deal that's been agreed to or something else. Right now, no specifics.
And Eamon, when this meeting ends, what happens next? Do we know? Is the entire Chinese delegation going home? Could they potentially be staying over?
We don't know. What we think might happen, well, a likely thing would be to have to be given some sense of when the next series of talks would be. That would be a very legitimate thing to expect for this afternoon. But we just don't know at this point, and it's they've been very close to the vest throughout the day today. Kayla Tausche is going to be in the Oval Office. We'll try to get some questions to the president and see what he says.
Eamon, thanks so much. Stay close. I'm sure we'll be back with you throughout the next couple of hours of the show. A reminder, 57 minutes left of trade today, and for the week, we are higher by 1.8% on the Dow. For the week as a whole, we're in positive territory above about 1.2, 1.3% for the S&P and the Dow. Of course, today's moves are raising the losses we had seen earlier in the week. Joining us for the full hour, Lindsay Bell, Chief Investment Strategist at Alley Invest. Great to see you, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
What do you think the market is pricing in here? That the next round of tariffs are delayed a significant amount of time or cancelled, but not more than that, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, this is very optimistic reaction, obviously, that we're seeing in the market today. And I think that the best that we're going to get is that October 15th date to increase tariffs on $250 billion from 25% to 30% gets pushed off. And maybe, just maybe, we get the December tariffs pushed out further as well, too, which would be a great positive for the market, of course. But I also think today's lift is also being supported by what we were hearing from Brexit. Mm-hmm. The consumer sentiment data was good. We got some good earnings from Fastenal. So I think there's a lot out there to be happy about.
Which led to a huge move in the 10-year. 174 we're trading at, and how we started the week at 151, all of which feeds into positive risk sentiment.
Right, exactly. And I think it also goes back to the fact that I think that the 10-year and 30-year, these notes got really, the yields got too low. And so I think you're seeing the market correct here, so.
And if we get more than potentially just a rollback of those October 15th tariffs or a delay of the December 15th, then you think there's more room to run from here if we get more news than just that?
Yeah, I think the market action that you're seeing today is exactly telling us just that. I mean, look at the action that you're seeing in Apple. I know we'll talk about that later. The tech sector, the Russell. You're just seeing real positive sentiment across the board in some of the places where we've seen weakness.
Thank you very much. Lindsay's going to stick with us for the hour. The Dow is on pace for its best performance since June. Bob Pisani has a look at the movers. Some of those trade-sensitive names on the move today, Bob.
Yeah, and only 1.5% from a new high on the S&P. So we're getting some new high breakouts today. Several Dow components. Retailers have been good, terrific the last several months. A very small group breaking out. So Walmart, new high there. Ross Stores, new high. The discounters, TJX, new high. Target, another new high. These have been real outperformers along with Costco in the retail space. Housing is another sector that's doing excellent. We highlighted the residential REITs recently doing well. Equity residential. Sam Zell, very happy man today, new high. Home Depot, Dow component, new high. Pulte, housing, new high. Sherwin-Williams, new high as well. Finally, we've talked about it all day. Fastenal, very core industrial, mostly U.S. revenues. Great guidance overall, good numbers. A little bit of a relief for those concerned that industrial guidance might be poor in the fourth quarter. That is a major overhang for the market. This is very good news. At least we're starting on a good good foot for the earnings. Remember, base case, there is a truce, no more tariffs. If we get something else, if they eliminate tariffs in existence, that could lead to a big rally going into the close. Guys, back to you.
Bob, thanks very much. We're up 466 points on the Dow with 54 minutes left. Chip stocks also getting a big boost on China trade hopes. Let's get to Josh Lipton, who's been watching the sector for us. Hey, Josh.
So, well, chip stocks move on trade headlines, and for good reason. China is an important end market for these companies. Qualcomm, Micron, Qorvo, Broadcom, and Texas Instruments all get roughly 40 to 60% of their revenues in China. The SMH, the ETF that tracks the chips, now on track for its best year in a decade. The Trump administration also reportedly planning to allow the sale of some supplies to Huawei, and that could be a big deal, too. Analysts estimate that Huawei spent more than $10 billion last year alone on U.S. semiconductor components. RBC's Mitch Steve says if a trade deal gets done, the semi sector could surge another 10%. Guys, back to you.
Thank you very much, Josh. We have about 53 minutes left to go in today's trading session. Stocks are markedly higher, and they've been that way for most of the session here, sitting very close to session highs for the Dow, higher by 472 points. We've seen a high of nearly 500 points for the Dow at one point during the session. Joining us now is James Lucier. He's a managing director at Capital Alpha Partners. James, thank you for joining us. You know, we've seen a nice couple days here of a rally, largely on these trade headlines. So, of course, some potentially positive news around Brexit and some actions from the Fed. But can we really trust this rally? We don't even know what's going on in Washington for sure yet.
No, I think you need to wake me up when it's over. There's absolutely nothing of substance coming out in this China deal. It'll be nice to see a planned break in the escalation, or rather a break in planned escalation, but there's really nothing but substance coming out in this deal. The Brexit news is good, of course. The consumer sentiment news is good. It's nice to have positive fundamental indicators going into the market, but the market trades on China for really no obvious reason. The market moves irrationally. Every little tick drives stock trading when there's really nothing behind that headline except white noise.
But James, if we did get confirmation tonight that, let's say, the most optimistic of scenarios, tariffs were removed, would it then be rational for the markets to move higher, and by how much?
I think so. If you saw tariffs actually come off, that would show that the U.S. was confident in getting some structural changes. The U.S. wants to see changes in the way that China Inc. works. They want to see less predatory behavior directed against the U.S. The whole purpose of the tariffs is not to decouple the economy so much as to protect the U.S., but also to deny the Chinese the benefits of their adversarial trading strategies against the U.S. I think that forestalling tariffs going on in effect in October 15, even forestalling the December tariffs, is good news. It means both sides want to back off and cool down, but it doesn't change the fundamental reality. So it's a big risk on day, but don't make big fundamental bets on the news because you still have a lot of negotiation left to go with China.
Lindsay, it seems like any given day we can sort of pick our favorite data points, whether they're arguing for strength or arguing for weakening. And the AAII investor survey is pretty pessimistic, but you don't think that's something we should really be too concerned about. Why not?
Right. The AAII survey is usually a contrarian indicator, and what we're seeing is the bullishness is much well below where it has historically been, and the bearishness is above the historical average also. So what you're seeing is that investors aren't feeling too good about this market, and usually that's a point where you can enter the market.
What about earnings season next week, Lindsay? Are you confident that we've seen expectations come down enough that beats are possible?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're looking for a decline of 4.2% on third quarter earnings. This is the third quarter in a row we're going into it thinking that we're going to see profits decline. And what I think you're going to see is flat to positive growth once again in the third quarter. Of course, the question is, what's the outlook? And with management teams going into this reporting period, not knowing what's going on with tariffs in October and in December, I have to imagine they're going to be somewhat pessimistic.
Okay. James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We are all over today's massive market rally in the China trade meeting, which is currently underway at the White House. After the break, we'll take a long-term look at the market's range and whether today's surge is just the start of a push to new highs.
And later, Chamber of Commerce executive Myron Brilliant has been very critical of the Trump administration's tariff plan. He's going to join us live to react to today's trade developments. And as we had to break, here's a check on our data tracker. An upside surprise for consumer sentiment with the initial reading for October coming in at 96 versus estimates of 92. That was the best read since July. Stay with us. Closing bell. We'll be right back.
Exploring the heart of historic Europe with Viking.
If you can drive a van that's built in Britain, with class-leading fuel economy on every run, to Middlesex to do some masonry, or to Tunbridge carrying well over a ton, yours is the all-new Vauxhall Vivaro, and you'll be driving a great Brit van, my son. All-new Vauxhall Vivaro carries British business. To find out more, search New Vauxhall Vivaro.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. Luke Combs has shared the full track listing for his album, What You See Is What You Get, which drops November 8th. There are 17 songs, which is a lot, but that's because the entire EP for the prequel is included. Meanwhile, Morgan Wallen is excited to announce the details of his Whiskey Glasses Roadshow Tour. It'll get going after the holidays with most of the dates in January, March, and April. To hear music from Luke Combs and Morgan Wallen, search Country Roads on TuneIn. Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. MusicNews.com says Coldplay is planning to release their first new album in 4 years in November, with a tour expected in 2020. Meanwhile, Us Weekly claims Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton have purchased a home together. A source tells the magazine Gwen and Blake have bought a house together and it's currently being renovated, which is why they are living in a rental in Bel Air. To hear music from Coldplay and Gwen Stefani, search today's hits on TuneIn.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
Welcome back to the closing bell. We've seen a relatively dramatic market move off some new Brexit headlines. Wolf has the latest. What's going on here, Wolf?
Yeah, so sterling has surged 4% in just 48 hours as hopes of a Brexit deal have dramatically improved. UK and European risk assets love that news, especially the domestic-focused FTSE 250 and the Irish stock market, as a deal would avoid the worst-case scenario of no-deal Brexit and the uncertainty that an election would bring. Having seen hopes for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's deal lowered on Monday after reports of a sour phone call with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, we saw a dramatic turnaround in sentiment yesterday, following an upbeat bilateral between Johnson and Irish PM Leo Varadkar, which was further cemented today at the EU level following a meeting between the UK Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay and EU negotiator Michel Barnier. So, what next? Well, the EU and the UK need to finalise a deal ahead of next week's EU summit. Boris Johnson needs his Northern Irish partners, the DUP, and the anti-Europe conservative group, the ERG, to back him until then, and then crucially, back him in a parliamentary vote on the deal. He could probably survive losing a handful of voters within those groups by gaining Labour Leave Rebels, but not if he lost support of the entire group. The move in sterling to a 3-month high shows the market is hopeful, and there have not been any comments to destroy that hope through the course of today, though we're still a long way from confirming it.
It does look like there's several key dates coming up. What are the likelihood that they're going to get the forward progress they need on any or all three of those?
Well, I think there's lots of hurdles still, okay. So you'd have to expect that there's the chance of slippage. The market is 3-month high, so clearly showing hope. I spoke to a number of currency strategists today. All of them say that if they saw a full deal go through, we'd jump to above 135. So at 126, you're seeing that move up from the lows about 6 weeks ago of just below 120. But we're not fully there to be pricing in a deal in terms of a certain sense, but it's dramatically improved in the course of this week.
Pretty major moves in a number of those markets.
Moves in those markets. RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, is up over 10%. Barclays was up 7%. So you've seen some big moves. Deutsche Bank, it's continental Europe, up 5%. So it shows the level of sort of pent-up frustration in these risk assets that they could jump further if we continue to see improving sentiment.
Something worth following for certain. We've got about 44 minutes left of trade. Let's send it over to Mike Santoli. He's got today's market dashboard. Hi, Mike.
I do, Court. Hello. To start off, we got a pennant formation. That's kind of a hopeful interpretation of the index charts right now. We'll go through that. Playing herd, that's what one very large healthcare company is doing right now. And some people saying maybe that's going to turn for the better. In need of relief, this is one area of the capital markets, in the credit markets, that maybe is looking a little bit wobbly. We'll take a look there. And then boos from the crowd. What does presidential popularity or unpopularity have to do historically with how the stock market does? We'll get to that. So look at a 2-year chart of the S&P 500. We're obviously making a nice amount of upside progress today in a forceful way, back to about 3-week high. But what's interesting here is what has come before. I am not a technician. I don't pretend to be, but I do watch people who are. And something roughly like that is sometimes known as a triangular pennant formation. What it means is you've got higher lows along this period, even though you're not making a new high. And typically, if you can break above this downtrend level, people are going to take that as a positive thing. I think the big message is the market has taken on a lot of uncertainty, a lot of kind of anxious news items, concerned about recession, a lot of things that were excuses that could have pulled back more, and so far in August, September, October has not done so. Look at a 6-month chart of stocks versus bonds. This is the S&P 500 against the Barclays aggregate, the total bond market index. Essentially, this is all bonds. S&P 500 in white, and you see this big outperformance over various sections of the year by bonds, and now a very rapid coming together of the two. That obviously would mean more of a risk-on tone. We're verging in that direction. Obviously, with bond yields up today, that means bond prices are falling, guys.
Mike, into your first chart, if we break out of that particular downtrend we've seen, does that take us to new highs altogether, or just out of the kind of still within that kind of 18-month trading range that we've seen and discussing on the charts?
The new highs are so close. I mean, it's less than 2% away that you would think that would probably be the impetus for a run at those highs. And then it's a matter of deciding, exactly how much energy is behind it. Of course, keep in mind, go back 20 months, and you've only had very brief periods when you got to these new high levels, and then it pulled back below. So you still have a very faint kind of uptrend, but one that has not really gone off to the races once we've touched new highs. So we'll have to see if that pattern changes or not.
Lindsay, what do you make of Mike's analysis of the technicals and where these charts have been and where they could go? We've been in such a tight trading range.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to look at the technicals. I'm not a technician either, but of course it's nice to know what they're thinking, what they're seeing, because, history does sometimes repeat itself. I think, though, what was interesting to me was the chart of the 6-month bond versus the stock market performance, and they both have performed about the same. It's just because of all this uncertainty. There's a little bit of something for everybody in the market, right? The bond market, they're benefiting from the low yields around the world, but the stock market is also benefiting from the low yields here and around the world, too. So it's just a little more volatile.
It's like that old, is that Paula Abdul song, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, or whatever that old song is. That's sort of what it feels like to me anyways. We've got about 40 minutes left to go here before that closing bell sounds to close out what has been a very interesting week. The Dow is higher by 477 points right now. The S&P 500 higher by almost 51. That's good for 1.75% gain for the S&P 500. We're all still awaiting headlines from the meeting between President Trump and China's Vice Premier. We're going to bring you the latest ahead. And up next, shares of Roku outperforming the broader rally today on the back of a fresh upgrade from RBC. Why that analyst says to buy after a 300% run this year, that's coming up.
Plus, the UAW strike against GM nearing the 1-month mark. But are the two sides any closer to a deal? We'll discuss the latest updates and the cost to GM and its suppliers.
There's golf. And there's the golf lifestyle.
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs. Like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world. And there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Today, we've got Game 1, Nationals, Cardinals. First pitch, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern.
Swinging a line drive into left center. That's going to score 2 more. And the Cardinals lead 9-0. It's a double by Wong. Let her rip, boys. Let her rip. The Cardinals lead 9-0 here in the first inning. Woo!
Yep, catch that game right here. Nationals, Cardinals, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Make sure to follow TuneIn today so you're always in the know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search @TuneIn.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn. Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Welcome back to the closing bell. It is now time to get the word on the street. Morgan Stanley out with a note on retail, calling it peak clothing. The firm citing peak volumes and falling prices that could lead to a structural decline. Morgan Stanley remains underweight on Gap, Macy's, Kohl's, American Eagle, and Abercrombie.
Apparently in America, people buy 65 pieces of clothing per annum.
I know.
Which is pretty remarkable.
Which is much higher than the UK at around 50, but we could be falling back as
exactly.
At least that's the thesis of it.
I definitely don't buy 65.
I don't think I do.
Drag the average down. A pair of dueling notes on Square. Susquehanna upgrading the stock to positive, maintaining a $77 price target. However, Nomura initiating Square as reduce or the firm's sell equivalent with a $49 price target. While Susquehanna is optimistic on increased reinvestment, Nomura says the stock is overvalued. And RBC Capital Markets upgrading Roku to outperform, raising its price target to $155 a share from $107 a share. The firm citing more compelling valuation, plus a recent SEC filing shows Citadel's taken a 5% stake in Roku. The stock's up 4.5%. Joining us now, Mark Mahaney, the analyst behind that call. Mark, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Wilfred.
So you had a buy, you went back down to neutral, and now you're back to buy. Talk us through those steps, why you downgraded and why you're back up to buy.
Mostly valuation calls both of these ways. Look, this has been a rocket ship. It was a rocket ship in the first half of the year, got as high as $170 and then pulled back into 100. So that's an enormous amount of volatility, but you see that sometimes in this small mid-cap space. We've liked the story fundamentally for some time, and there's a great theme here, and this is we're entering streaming wars. We all know that when we think about the Disney launch and the Apple launch and the Time Warner launch, Comcast launch, etc. There are a couple of derivative plays here. Now, I do like Netflix. The stock hasn't worked well, but I still like that stock. But here's an interesting play. Roku, they're going to get advertising revenue as these new streaming platforms try to market themselves to consumers. If you sign up for one of these new streaming services via Roku, Roku will get a revenue share from that. And then finally, anything that leads to kind of diversification and content kind of away from the big three, Amazon, YouTube, and Netflix is positive for a name like Roku. So we like the story fundamentally. We had a big pullback. We upgrade.
Mark, talk us through the valuation, particularly compared to Netflix, which clearly has pulled back of late because of valuation fears.
Yeah, well, Netflix has pulled back in part because of the streaming wars. Like, it's the negative derivative, the negative play off of streaming wars. It's this new competition that has caused people to be very nervous about Netflix. Also, Netflix missed sub numbers, so those are two great reasons for the stock to trade off. We think that's created a compelling buying opportunity, but I understand why it's traded off. Roku is a different matter. We haven't had any misses here. We actually think numbers are reasonably set. We think there's probably modest upside. But we think this as, again, this is one of the best derivatives you can get off of you want to be the Switzerland during the streaming wars. They are Switzerland, and the wars are occurring around them. They should be paid by a lot of these arms dealers. If I didn't ruin the analogy, that's what I meant to say.
I think we understood what you were saying with the Switzerland. Lindsay, what do you make of Roku here?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a valuation call. I mean, they have some great things going for them. Like Mark said, they're the Switzerland, right? This is where you want to be when you are in the streaming wars. And look, they're taking share. The revenue is growing hand over fist. It's an amazing company, I think.
Mark, I know everyone mentions, and you've alluded to it, that they are kind of agnostic as to which of these other content providers is most successful. But they also have the Roku channel, which is an increasing revenue stream for them. Is that a sort of thing which you don't want to see be too successful and grow too strongly? Because then some of the rivals might start to think, well, we don't want to have our apps and our content available on Roku's platform anymore.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way, Wilfred. But yeah, I can see that kind of nuanced risk. You reminded me, though, there's one other new element to the story, which is Roku's been an entirely North American, I think entirely U.S. phenomenon to date. They've now announced that they're going to be launching into Europe. So I don't see any particular reason why they can't be successful both as a device vendor, those Roku devices, as an operating system vendor into smart TVs in Europe and then in the rest of the world, but also as a streaming platform. So there's a kind of a new market play here that should help numbers, not anytime soon, not Q3 or Q4, but next year. But yes, in terms of the Roku channel, to date, that's been nothing but goodness for the story, because that revenue, there's no revenue share, there's no ad revenue share that they have to give off of that. So it's been a real nice tailwind to the story. I see your point, but I don't think that's going to be a real concern unless that were something like 50% of all the streaming via Roku, and I don't think that would happen.
Thank you, Mark Mahaney. Shares Roku are higher by more than 5% on this up-market day. Well, we have more than 30 minutes left to go, and here are the three things driving the risk on action today. Hope for progress on a trade deal with China as we continue to await what the president will reveal in his meeting with the Chinese delegation at the White House. Quote, constructive Brexit negotiations overnight, seeming to lessen the chances of a worst-case scenario, and some rosy consumer sentiment data helping ease concern over the health of the economy.
It is time for a CNBC News Update. Sue Herrera's got it for us. Hi, Sue.
I do indeed. Thank you very much, Wilf. Here's what's happening at this hour, everyone. U.S. troops in Syria have returned to the area they vacated just days ago to monitor combat operations. 5 U.S. armored vehicles conducted a patrol just a few miles from Tal Abad, where Turkey is attacking the Kurdish positions. Bernie Sanders says he believes President Trump should be impeached. He made that comment to reporters this afternoon, adding that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell should hold a trial if the House passes articles of impeachment.
Let me say today to Mitch McConnell, and that is, if Trump is impeached, and I believe he will be, and I believe he should be, and when that trial comes to the United States Senate, I hope McConnell will do the right thing for the American people.
Alexei Leonov, who became the first human to walk in space in 1965, has died. Though less well known internationally than Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, Leonov was a household name in Russia. He was 85 years old. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Courtney, I'll send it back downtown to you.
The bravery to go into space ever, but particularly in 1965.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Everyone was riveted to it.
I can only imagine. Very cool. Thank you, Sue. Well, let's send it over to Mike Santoli. He's got his second dashboard. And Mike, I get the theme. It's baseball today, right?
It is baseball. It's the League Championship Series in particular. Yes, exactly. I think, it's been at least a week or so since I did a baseball theme. But playing hurt, that's what Johnson & Johnson has been doing for some time. The stock, even up 2% today, is still down almost 12% from its highs. Here's the analyst sentiment setup right now. Now, we did get an upgrade today from Bernstein, arguing that a lot of the litigation risks that have been an overhang might be priced in. What's interesting here is the street didn't get it wrong here. You had very few buy ratings on a relative basis, fewer than half back here toward the highs of the oranges and stock price. Now you're down here. People are getting warm to it. It's 61% or so of the analysts now have a buy rating. You have this gap between the stock price and the target price here of about 15%. So Wall Street is basically saying, maybe take a shot. And partially, I'm sure that's because this is the kind of stock you would have thought would have worked in this environment. Very defensive, amazing balance sheet, long-term record, stable. A lot of the defensive stocks have done great. Now take a look at the valuation, which really is kind of extraordinary for this company in particular in trading at this kind of a discount, specifically trading below the market multiple. But how much below? Well, it's kind of never been this cheap relative to the market in the last 5 years, at least. In fact, we can go back beyond that as well. So clearly, they still have fighting litigation wars on multiple fronts. That's not gone away. But the market itself has really applied a pretty good discount. Naturally, if you like healthcare in general, Johnson & Johnson should be a big piece of deciding whether, in fact, that's the way to play it, guys.
Mike, thanks very much. Lindsay, to what extent do you think there is political risk adequately priced into this sector and this stock?
Yeah, we look at J&J, the valuation numbers Mike just showed us are pretty stunning. You got to remember, too, that's a 2.9% dividend yield. This is the type of stock that people run to in uncertain environments like this, especially with the trade headlines that we're seeing swinging each way every other day. This is a stock and a sector, healthcare, that usually really does well during uncertain times. So this is something that I think you can get into at these levels. The biggest knock against it is, like you said, Wilf, it's the heightened political environment as we go into 2020. They do have that big pharmaceutical business, and those politicians are going to be focused on cutting drug costs going into that election period. But they're more diversified than some of the other pharmaceuticals with the medical device businesses and the consumer business, so they've got all that going for them.
An $8 billion fine is no joke. That's the first litigation. They're still fighting many, many other trials as well.
Right, but as long as they maintain that dividend, I think that's the key to this stock.
We've got 27 minutes left of trade. We're higher by 460 points on the Dow. We are, of course, awaiting any news out of that meeting in the Oval Office between the Chinese and President Trump. And coming up next, we'll have your last chance trade.
Plus, it's been a record day for Apple as the stock hits new highs on the back of trade optimism and a bullish Wall Street call. We're going to take a closer look at Apple's record run. That's coming up ahead on the closing bell. And as we head to break, here's a check on bonds. Treasury yields getting a boost across the board today. The 10-year yield now trading above 1.7%. It's a big jump from earlier in the week. Closing bell, we'll be right back.
The Bond Report is
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky at Curry's PC World? T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
It's going to be mild today, but with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to wake up to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News update. MusicNews.com says Coldplay is planning to release their first new album in 4 years in November, with a tour expected in 2020. Meanwhile, Us Weekly claims Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton have purchased a home together. A source tells the magazine Gwen and Blake have bought a house together and it's currently being renovated, which is why they are living in a rental in Bel Air. To hear music from Coldplay and Gwen Stefani, search today's hits on TuneIn.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content.
It's called Indie.
Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroudy.
And get alerted when the big game's about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which two teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
The throw, he steps up, he's going deep down the right side. Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free.
The end zone, touchdown.
At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
Welcome back. Some new headlines on the trade meeting just crossing, and Eamon Javers has the details for us. Hi, Eamon.
Yeah, Wilford, reporters are still gathered on the colonnade just outside the Oval Office waiting to go into that China meeting. We don't have any detail about what's going on in the meeting now. They've been holding now for over 45 minutes, and given the lateness of the hour, it's at least possible that we don't get the China news until after the market closes at this point. We'll have to wait and see. They could go in at any second, so we don't know for sure one way or the other. But it's at least possible now that an event we thought was going to happen 45 minutes ago doesn't happen until after the market closed. So that's one thing to bear in mind. A couple of thoughts from Kayla Tausche, who is on the colonnade and has been there for quite some time. She points out to us a couple of things from the White House release here of who is in this meeting, we now know, including Wilbur Ross. Kayla Tausche says she's got one source who says Wilbur Ross was in Australia as recently as yesterday and has returned to the United States for this meeting. Another thought that she points out, which is an interesting one to note, which is that Liu He has a slightly different title, according to the White House, in this meeting than he's had in recent meetings. They're saying that he is now a special envoy. That is a title that he had held earlier in the year and had been removed from him. And now the White House release on this indicates that he's being billed as a special envoy again, which would indicate he has a little bit more negotiating power and heft in terms of deal-making ability. So that's an interesting thing to watch. Has Liu He's role changed here going into this Oval Office meeting? Again, we don't know. And of course, there's always the possibility that the White House press staff cut and pasted an old list here with old titles, which occasionally happens. So we're reduced to reading tea leaves to some extent on this meeting here, which we had expected would begin at 2:45 and may be underway right now, but which we can't see and don't know any news from just yet, Will.
Although, Eamon, we are just hearing it is reportable that the press corps are going into the Oval Office as we speak, so no doubt more information to come any minute now. Eamon, stick around. I'm sure we'll be back to you soon. Eamon Javers there.
Absolutely.
That's right. We have 22 minutes left to go, as Eamon points out, to get some news before this market closes. But we do have a news alert in the meantime on eBay. Deirdre Bosa has the details.
Courtney, eBay has become the second major company in a week to drop out of Facebook's Libra Association. PayPal bowed out first about a week ago, and this comes ahead of a meeting on Monday, a critical meeting of that Libra Association, which is now down to 26 members. In a statement, eBay says, we highly respect the vision of the Libra Association. However, they've made the decision not to move forward as a founding member. At this time, they say, we are focused on rolling out eBay's managed payments experience for our customers. Now, we have reached out to other companies in the association to confirm their attendance on Monday, this make or break meeting, but we have yet to hear back.
Apologies, we're just going to interrupt and let's get back to Eamon Javers, who's got some more headlines rolling out of the Oval Office as the reporters have entered. Eamon, what can you tell us?
Our Kayla Tausche is in the Oval. She's just reporting a substantial Phase 1 deal. I'm just seeing this for the first time that I'm reading it to you. Will be written over the next 3 weeks. Hope to conclude before a trip to Chile. Kayla is saying that there are 40 to 50 billion in total ag purchases here being mentioned in the Oval Office. So that's the detail we have right now. This is apparently what the president has just said as the reporters were being ushered in the room. They went in the room about 3:36. It's now 3:40. So in the first 2 or 3 minutes here, the president has put out a couple of details here, and we'll wait for some more as we get it, Wilfred.
Eamon, thanks so much. Stick with us. So let's discuss this through. We're at session highs, by the way. 517 points on the Dow was the session high. We're hovering at that level at the moment, 1.9%. All sectors higher, meaningful jump. And Eamon, just the other flash that's come out. The president says we have come to a substantial phase one deal with China. Going back to our earlier discussion, whatever the precise subtext of that deal is, a deal is big progress, is it not?
Yeah, look, the market is going to like that headline, Wilfred. There's no question about it. Remember, the president had insisted that what he wanted was a big deal, a substantial deal. He did not want what they called the small deal. So now the way this is being described is a substantial phase one deal. So, is that what was otherwise billed as a small deal or not? We're going to have to wait for a little bit more nuance. And as I say, I'm just looking at this as you're looking at it. And we don't have any additional facts right now. But a substantial phase one deal seems to be an effort to do something in the interim without going as far as the full deal that the president had talked about at the outset of this trade war. Welcome.
Eamon, thank you very much. Lindsay, I know you're waiting for a tariff rollback or a delay, but if Secretary Ross is back and he holds the key to the Huawei licenses, as Kayla Tausche points out, does that give you any more hope for getting a little bit closer to something substantial?
I mean, that's a big ask.
Okay.
I think that there's just still so much uncertainty here. Even this announcement, you saw the market pop on the news, but it's come right back to where it was before the substantial phase one headline came out here. And I think it's because we don't know what's going to happen. And as we know, things can change very rapidly over the weekend that we have to go through and into next week. Yes, I'm very hopeful that we're moving forward. But as far as really getting answers to the problems that started this whole conversation, which is IP theft and benefits to state-owned companies and things like that, I don't see us getting there, at least near term.
Yeah, and just to dive into more of the details that we've got, our Kayla Tausche, who is in the room in the Oval Office at the moment, saying that President Trump said we've come to a substantial phase one deal subject to getting it written. So Eamon's caveats there as well, phase one deal as opposed to total deal, and it still needs to be written. But Kayla Tausche adds that that will likely take around 3 weeks to write and will conclude, as Eamon said, around the Chile trip, which is happening in mid-November. But we are above 500 points on the Dow. We shouldn't understate that. The market is welcoming this news as it has done all day. 1.9% higher. We've got 1.8% on the S&P, NASDAQ, and the Russell up more than 2%. Every sector is higher on the S&P 500. Industrials, materials, energy, and tech all up more than 2% themselves. Of course, those are cyclical sectors with significant exposure to China. And let's just see if we're getting any more headlines rolling out as we speak. Kayla Tausche, who's in the room, saying phase two will start almost immediately after phase one is signed. No further details on what is separated out into phase one and phase two, but clearly ongoing progress. Mike Santoli's just joined us on set as well. Mike, market's been higher all day. This is an extra sweetener to it, but for obvious reasons, we've got the confirmation we've been waiting for all day.
Yeah, confirmation that is actually a deal. What you can characterize as a substantial phase one deal is a wide range of things, but presumably if there are now dollar values on ag purchases, it means that most likely concessions are rolled back. Tariffs are rolled back. That's all the market wanted. The market wanted de-escalation. The big issues, the market didn't want this fight in the first place. So the fact that we're not going to necessarily get to the end point that the administration sought, no big deal. Again, we're reverting back to where we traded in this market a few weeks ago, and that makes all the sense in the world just because we've been kind of living under this cloud of will we in fact have anything come out of these trade talks in October.
Mike, are you surprised that we haven't moved more? I mean, Lindsay pointed out we went above 500. Now we're sliding just back down a bit, just because it's not a resolution clearly? Or?
No, I don't even know if that's what it is. I just think because there's such a wide range of possible terms that could be reflected in that description of a substantial deal. And plus, I mean, I don't think it really changes the overall economic picture. I don't think it was just trade holding this thing back. You're up several percent from the lows in August. You're 1.5% from all-time highs. It's not as if this market, has been truly pounded down and depressed going into this. So I do think it makes all the sense in the world that we're lifting from these pressured levels of August and September. But I wouldn't get into the whole semantics of how many points for how many words.
Well, we are awaiting any further updates because we have slipped a little bit, not to be too focused on the exact market performance. But as you can see, we're now only up 1.6%, 430 points on the Dow. As we mentioned, the high about 520 points. Again, awaiting any further headlines that do come out of this particular Oval Office meeting. Eamon Javers is still with us. Eamon, to what extent do you think the president would not have been announcing the word deal to suggest that a phase one deal is complete unless he was very confident it would be done? Or is this part of the course that he's happy to backtrack if necessary at a later date?
Well, look, this is a president who has an element of showmanship to this presidency, and this is a president who likes announcements. This is a president who likes the stock market and wants it to be higher. So all of those give you a sense that the president has a lot of incentive here to demonstrate that he has been successful. And we're getting just some squibs now from Kayla in the Oval Office, who's suggesting that they will negotiate a phase two part of this deal after the phase one part of the deal. She's saying that both elements will have some tech transfer elements to them, and there may be a phase three if they can't get everything done in phase two. Also saying that Secretary Mnuchin is discussing a currency pledge and says, quote, an almost complete agreement on currency and financial services. So an almost complete agreement from Secretary Mnuchin, who's also saying that there is an agreement around transparency in foreign exchange. Again, all this coming from Kayla, who's in the room and communicating with us. And so we don't have the specifics until those are rolled out by the White House and the Treasury Department. But it seems like what the president is indicating here is he's going to take several bites at the apple. A phase one deal, a phase two deal, a phase three deal, maybe something on currency early, maybe something on foreign exchange early, maybe more elements to be rolled out over the course of time. So it sounds like what the president is suggesting here is that they've got an agreement to at least start agreeing on some things. And so we'll see where it goes from there, and we'll wait some more details, and we'll wait the tape playback of the president saying everything that he's saying right now.
Yeah, one wonders what bargaining power is remaining if phase one and two are done, if you can get much at phase three. But Eamon, thanks. Stick close. Let us know when you have more. We slipped about 130 points from the high of 519 points on the Dow, which was about 5 or 6 minutes ago, down below 400 points of gains, now back above 400, 404, but 100 points or so off the highs of the session. Still a healthy gain, 1.4, 1.5% for the major markets. We're joined on the phone by Eurasia Group Head of Asia Practice, Michael Herson, who, of course, has been with us a number of times in recent past. Michael, thanks for joining us. What's your take on what's dripping out of this meeting?
I think so far this meets expectations in terms of what we know, and admittedly it's not that much yet, but the broad outlines seem pretty much as expected, and I think the real question right now is how much momentum will there actually be to get to phase two and phase three?
From what you've heard from the headlines, and we know they're fairly bare bones at this point, do you feel like the U.S. has had to make any major concessions, or is it China that did that? How did they get where they are now based on the little information that we know?
It's a great question. I don't think either side, to be honest, has really made very deep concessions. For the Chinese side, it's probably mostly one of pride. I think the currency agreement is probably a bit less than meets the eye. Both sides really have an interest in maintaining the basic stability of the currency. So this reduces some of the tail risks around the currency and the tensions in this area, but I don't view this as really a fundamental breakthrough.
Michael, our Kayla Tashi just letting us know that Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin has confirmed that the tariff hike on the 15th of October will not go forward. Is that more or less than you were expecting?
That is, I think, the bare minimum of what the Chinese would have demanded as part of the concessions that they're making. It's interesting that there has been no mention yet of the tariff hike on December 15th, which shows how much determination there is, I think, on the U.S. side to really use tariffs to maintain leverage over Beijing and have them implement the commitments they're making, or perhaps to hold their feet to the fire on subsequent negotiations.
Mike, what's your take in terms of where we're settling? 410 points on the Dow.
Yeah, I think the idea that there's a phase two, and we haven't heard about December tariffs, probably, look, we're still in the same treadmill. I think heart of hearts, the market wanted to not have to worry about the next bit of progress. So if in fact we're just going to get something short term, by the way, if this looks like the May deal that we walked away from when the S&P was at 2940, here we are at 2978. Not clear why we should get overly excited about where we're headed if in fact those are the elements of what we're agreeing to right now.
Let's get back to